Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. We have a special episode coming out on a Sunday. This is our debate special, where I'm going to be watching the entire debate and discussing it. So here we go. Let's start, because, this is really the only topic, is the presidential debate. And I've heard it's a little alarming.
These rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Oh, God.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
What's up with this music, dude? Oh my God.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters...
You know what's really interesting is how, I don't know if it's the mics or what, but Biden looks horrible in that first part. Hey folks, what's going on? Like he has no idea what's going on in the room.
Voters consistently say is their top concern the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed.
Dude, I'm going to keep it playing because it's long. Dude, this is really bad. What is wrong with his voice?
Try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do.
The debates are all about optics. And this man literally sounds like he's dying on the stage.
There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price
Bro's
of
speed running.
That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed.
Why hasn't he done that yet?
In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left,
so
we were in chaos.
The things he's talking about, he's had 4 years to do, and he hasn't done it.
We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue.
He has done that.
To $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never
No, we
done
didn't.
so well. Everybody was amazed by it.
This is what I love about Republicans, is that they blow shit out their ass all the time when it comes to the economy. Where he inherits the Obama economy, which was doing substantially pretty well, and then absolutely bombed it in the last year of his presidency.
So many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting...
Bush Sr. is a good example of this, by the way.
He created mandates. That was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, the bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
That was a really short
Well, look, the greatest
opening.
economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy He rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant, and the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President
I guess
Trump,
he's technically
I wanna
right.
follow up if I can. You
Am I
want
allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power.
I love that he thinks that tariffs are going to solve the economy, as if that won't completely tank our economy. It would cause prices to soar.
That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way.
It's also very
Then it blew up under his leadership because they
anti-free market of the Republicans to want to raise tariffs.
And they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations,
Country's life.
President Trump.
So I have to pause for a second because I can't keep talking over them while they're speaking. I love that he won't give any details of his Afghanistan plan. I've always said that I think Biden pulling out of Afghanistan is one of the best things he did as a president, and which is a very unpopular opinion. A lot of liberals got scared of the optics and immediately were like, oh my god, we left stuff in Afghanistan, it's the end of the world. And it's been 3 years now, and what's been happening to us, at least, Afghanistan at least isn't doing too well right now, but that's what happens to a country when the US ravages it for 20 years and then decides to leave abruptly. That's just what happens. There was no good scenario where Afghanistan wasn't immediately taken back by the Taliban following a U.S. withdrawal. So I would love to know the details of Trump's plan that makes it any better than what Biden did, because it wouldn't have mattered if Obama did it, if Trump did it, or if Biden did. Well, Biden did do it, but it wouldn't have mattered if those three administrations had done it. We shouldn't have gone into Afghanistan in the first place. We shouldn't have gone into Iraq, but that's a whole separate conversation. And so I would love to know what part of Trump's plan. And I hate that they won't press him on it, because, you know, they CNN is in this really odd position of having to appear fair and balanced because the right-wing Trumpers are all, staring at it with a fucking spyglass, waiting for them to slip up and target the former president. But I would love them to ask a follow-up question about what are the details of your Afghanistan withdrawal plan that were different from what Biden did. And of course the answer would be fueled by hindsight and whatnot. He can obviously manipulate his answer towards a more favorable outcome because we have hindsight now. We know what didn't work and what would have, theoretically. So he can get away. I was wearing the wrong glasses. I should be wearing my blue light ones. He can get away with giving a bullshit answer that's curated towards what would have maybe worked a little better than what Biden did. But I'd love to at least hear it. I don't want to hear we would have left with strength and dignity. I'm like, is that a new weapon that we were developing called strength and dignity? Like, what part of the plan would have made it where we left with strength and dignity?
Over the last 8 years,
I'm putting the
under
other ones
both of
back
your
on.
administrations, the national debt soared to record highs.
Actually, I'm just going to keep them off.
Nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than
It's just Reaganomics.
country. But we spurred that.
If we lessen the richest monetary burden, then it'll trickle down to us eventually, and we already know that doesn't work.
Beyond that,
I don't think this rhetoric is working on the American people either. I think middle class people understand that that's not how that fucking works. When they didn't receive a single fucking raise during the Trump administration or got laid off during the Trump administration, I think they understand now that that's not how that works.
we got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation.
Oh, God,
with
he-
all of the therapeutics and
Oh God, he brought up COVID. Oh no, what are you bringing up your L's for? Hold
was
on.
going like never before. And we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right.
Hold on.
Far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most
no, he
objected to
didn't.
about
The military
vaccine.
did a mandate, and that was about it.
Job, just a very poor job. And I will
Legally,
tell
you can't
not only
mandate the
poor
American
there,
people
but
to get
throughout
vaccinated.
The entire world would no longer respect
Unless you're
this
talking about
country.
polio, then I
They
guess
don't
they can just
respect
do
our
that.
leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation.
What?
And it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country.
What?
And I'd love to ask you.
Wait.
A third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent.
What? That's what Trump did? Is he saying that Biden did that? Dude, that's what Trump did. He literally said to Ukraine, we're not going to give you money unless you give me information on my opponent. That's exactly what Trump did. He used the presidential office to get information on his political enemies. That's literally fucking Nixon type shit. And he got impeached. Oh my God. Dude's off the rocker. I get what people are saying now. He looks like he's literally about to croak, and then he looks fucking insane. And that's why people keep saying we're cooked. Oh no. Oh God, dude. Also, I was gonna say, dude, the Republicans are
All
fucking
of the things he's done, we've
pussies,
become like a
dude.
third world nation.
Look at what we did with the polio vaccine. Y'all would have been crying over the way that was handled. They used to force people to get the polio vaccine. Grow up.
To come into our country and destroy
Pussies.
our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an
He
opportunity
brought
to
up immigration while I was talking about the vaccine.
respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the
His
very well.
face, dude.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes.
Oh, 1,000 trillionaires.
24%,
That's gonna get
25%,
ragged.
One of those numbers. They'd raised $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
What is going on? Dude, did I just watch him nearly have a fucking stroke? Even Trump starts looking... Dude, oh my God. This is so bad. Why did they agree to this? Why did they not pump him full of fucking superhuman juice or whatever they got cooking up at Walter Reed, dude? Oh my God. Oh my God. Even Trump looks at him like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, I hate it, dude. He's the sitting president. It's been one of my biggest critiques of this presidency is that he's too fucking old and should be succeeded in the re-election, not continued on. He's gonna fucking die either before this administration's over or during the next one. Oh,
We're able to make every single solitary.
this dude's not making it to 2028.
Eligible.
It's a miracle he even made it here.
That we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything.
Oh.
We have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because
I'm
all of these
surprised he's
people
not
are
bringing
coming
this
in.
up.
They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected.
Dude, this
they don't
camera
like
angle is
us.
disgusting.
We give them everything.
Hold on, why are they cutting to like a side angle of Joe Biden? What is going on, dude? Why are they doing? They're doing him dirty. They're cooking him. Look at this shit. Why are they doing that? Dude, cut the feed. Cut the feed.
Thing they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do.
There had to
nothing
have been
for
a
us.
producer in the
What
back
this
being like,
man
"What the
has
fuck are you
done
doing? That
is
makes him look
absolutely
horrible."
criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Tana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned.
Tana?
Done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Tana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another
God.
abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it.
Fuck.
And if you look at this whole question
God
that
damn
you're
it.
asking,
This makes
a
him look-
complex,
this
but
makes
not
him look
really
good in
complex.
moderates'
51 years
eyes.
ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in
Which I think is
favor of-
horseshit, by the way. I feel like a president should have limits on how many justices they can appoint. Of course, there's some problems there. There would have to be a a carve out for certain scenarios, but I feel like if there's 3 deaths on the court, you should only be allowed to replace 2 of them. You should not be able to do 3. You should only be allowed to do 2 max per administration. So every 4 years. That's, I don't know. That's just a personal opinion of mine.
And moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly,
this motherfucker knew Reagan personally. I find it really interesting whenever Trump brings up Reagan in front of Biden because this dude right here served in the Senate under the Reagan administration. So like this, I don't think people understand. This motherfucker has been in office for a long time. He was serving while my parents were being born. Like, he's ancient, dude. And then this dude was discriminating against black people in the same time period.
I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth.
Which isn't true, by the way.
Look at the former governor of Virginia. He was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with it.
Hold the phone. That Virginia story, one, is like ancient history at this point. That shit was 6 years ago. That was also not what he said. It's also where that infamous clip of Alex Jones yelling at Eddie Bravo comes from on JRE, where he's like, they took a vote in the goddamn fucking Senate. I love that fucking clip so much. It's so funny. That was back when I used to somewhat still watch the Joe Rogan Experience. Holy shit, what a clip.
The baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
It's also not true.
We brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Saying we brought it back to the states after saying that the Virginia governor wanted to kill babies is hilarious because you basically just said the Virginia governor wanted to murder 9-month-old fetuses, and I basically just gave him the power to do so.
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that...
Bro just said you hate black people. Holy shit. That's basically what he just said, that you just want to return. Dude, that's crazy. He basically just said, if you support overturning Roe v. Wade, you might as well repeal the Civil Rights Act. Damn. Bro said, fuck states' rights.
Are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same.
What was that? Dude, they suck at this. CNN sucks at this.
But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women
Also
being
crazy
raped
ass frame.
by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young
Damn.
women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous
Don't you
place
dare
anywhere
do
in the
it.
world. Considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have.
They did,
everybody
actually.
wanted brought back.
They actually did know about this issue. There's extensive history about abortion from back in that time period, and they actually did know about abortion. And it wasn't as demonized as it is right now. But I'm not going to get into the complicated history behind abortion.
Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden.
I'm pretty sure everyone was, not everyone, but like 70% of the country was fine with Roe v. Wade. And a 6-3 conservative majority Supreme Court overturned that decision. So basically going against the will of the people. And then, you're going to have people arguing like states' rights. It's the whole like argument for why we should have an electoral college and all that shit. Exhausting.
I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that
What?
means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill
That's
the
just
baby.
statistically false. Like, there are little to no 9th month abortions. And if there are, it's from an extreme emergency or the fetus has died already inside of the mother. And so it's always under extreme circumstances. You can't just show up to an abortion clinic on the 9th month and go, you know what, I feel like aborting this baby. You can't just do that. That's not how that works. Most abortion clinics won't do that. Usually you have to like have an actual medical emergency to get a 9th month abortion, which is very few and very far between. Like, does not happen at the rate that Republicans say it does. And I also love him saying, I love Biden saying, if I get elected, I will bring back Roe v. Wade. You are elected. You're the president. What the fuck are we talking about? I don't like this. He keeps talking in the debate like he's not the president. He keeps talking in the debate like it's 2020. Dude, you're the fucking president. Do it. I don't get it. You are in the office. You're in the seat. He's not. Just do it. Codify that shit. I don't get this. I don't understand this whole debate so far. He keeps talking about, oh, if I get elected this, if I get elected that. Dude, you are elected. You're the president. Do it. I hate this shit. All this shit about fucking abortion, immigration, whatever else they're going to talk about in this debate. Probably about healthcare. I think they already talked about fucking Medicaid and shit and like healthcare and all that. Do it, dude. All this shit you said you were gonna do in 2020, you haven't done it. Why do we need to elect you to a second term so you do it? I don't understand. I don't get it. Why do we have to re-elect him for him to do the shit that he said he was gonna do in the first 4 years? I don't understand it. I'm so critical of Biden in this debate because he is the president. If this was the 2020 debate, I'd be railing up Trump's ass the whole time because, and I did when I talked to my friends about that debate all the way back then, those two debates that they had, I talked about how fucking abominable Trump's administration was. Trump was the sitting president during that time. I would have gone in on him. Biden was just the candidate. Of course, former vice president, but what does the vice president do? You know, in all actuality. But Biden is the president now. Trump doesn't have any actual power right now. He has social clout. He doesn't have any actual political power in the government. So, like, I'm going to be way more critical of the guy that signs the bills and can basically say, let's go blow up that place, than I'm going to be of the guy who's on trial right now who could probably go to jail before the election.
Nobody wants that
also,
to happen.
Trump does not have the smoke this debate.
Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true.
He's kind of a
Roe v.
bitch,
Wade
this
does not
debate.
provide for that. That's not the circumstance.
Like, literally, he looks weak in this debate. Trump does. He's usually way more fired up. I feel like he has way more bangers. Maybe we just haven't given him time to load up yet.
Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think
Haven't
the
the
Democrats
courts
are the radical.
universally upheld 9-month abortion bans? Like, haven't the courts universally upheld stuff like that? Those limits? Like, those are very reasonable discretionary limits on Roe v. Wade. Like I said, a lot of abortion clinics will not go through with just a optional 9-month abortion just because you want to get one. Usually it has to be some kind of medical emergency.
Not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, Constitutional Scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number
Dude,
of migrants
he was about to
have
go
illegally
hard.
crossed the
Trump was about to go in on him on that, and they cut his ass off.
southern
That's
border on your
awesome.
watch. Overwhelming border states
They went, "We gotta move
and
on."
overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go.
I just want to remind everybody that Biden's doing the exact same thing.
I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation
The
where
Democrats and Republicans are
40% fewer
pretty
people
fairly
coming across the
aligned
border illegally.
on immigration.
It's better than when he left office.
The Democrats are just a lot
Continue
quieter
until we
about
get
it.
a total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it.
Oh, my
He decided to open up our border, open up our country.
Someone put him on a Dayquil and then an Adderall, man.
from
Come
prisons.
on, give him some
People that were
hunter's
from
crack.
mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists.
Give
We
him
have the
those
largest
steroid
number of terrorists
packs.
coming into our country right now. All terrorists,
Fuck, I
all
need to
over the
pop
world,
my
not just
elbow.
in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring
The
in.
Middle East.
And this guy just
What?
left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
Let's remind the audience here that Biden has upheld Title 42, has actually used it, which is hilarious because COVID's no longer a major threat. So there's no real reason to keep using it. He's also deported more people in the first year of his presidency than Trump had in like 3 years. So, like I said, the Democrats and Republicans are very aligned on this problem. It's just the Republicans are really good at cutting propaganda about it, and the Democrats are really quiet about it because they don't want their liberal base to know that they are just as cruel and disgusting towards immigrants as the Republicans are. And I love the idea that we're just like letting them all flood into the country. It's not true. Like, not true at all.
President. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border
What?
in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's
Wait, what?
But I won't say that. But the Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history.
Yeah, I don't
Now
think
we
the
have
Border
worst border in
Patrol's
history.
supposed
There's
to
never been
endorse the
anything like
president,
it.
by the way.
And people are dying all
That's
over
probably
the
why
place,
Biden had that
including
look
the
on his
people that are
face.
coming up in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers.
Come on,
That's the only
dude.
terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now
Same
it's
guy
down in less
who
than half
openly shits on the
because
military,
he's done
by
all
the
these
way.
great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in.
President
and it's
Biden.
a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed his
Oh, yeah, the
group opposed
PACT
that.
Act.
We're also in a situation
Oh,
where
man, I forgot
we have
about
great
the
respect
PACT
for
Act.
veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living one next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
Damn.
President Trump.
First of all, that was a made-up
Roasted,
quote,
dude.
suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing.
Not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate
Literally
magazine
came
that's
out of his
failing,
mouth,
like
too.
many
That's
of these
hilarious.
magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war
I
against
don't really have much to say about veterans, considering both parties equally don't really care about veterans that much. Just Republicans are better at cutting propaganda about caring about veterans, but if they cared so much, they wouldn't lead them into politically charged bullshit wars.
Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says
I guess
he'll
that's true,
only
yeah.
end this war
I didn't
if
think about
Russia
that.
keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand.
God. Isn't Putin's terms that he wants to... They're like, we'll agree to a ceasefire if you just let us have the eastern half of Ukraine. Like, isn't that literally his terms? It's like, why are we going to keep letting Russia get away with that? They did it with Crimea, and they're going to do it with eastern Ukraine. They're like, here, let's write out the terms. You give us a chunk of your country, and we'll stop firing at you for like a few years. And then we'll re-invade 8 years later, like we did this time. And we'll just take the western half. We'll give you like an 8-year head start to get the fuck out of here. Like, that's literally always the Russian terms for these conflicts with Ukraine.
Stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him,
This is
that
insane.
we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based
This is
on every
unhinged.
single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people.
I think what's hilarious is that under Trump, Putin definitely would have invaded Ukraine. And under Trump, Israel would have for sure glassed the fuck out of Gaza by now. Those are two conflicts that he said would never have happened if he was the president. However, Trump is the reason why October 7th happened in the first place. He recognized the Golan Heights as being Israel's. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. So it's like, you know, all this would have happened under a Trump administration, like the glassing of, you know, the genocide in Gaza, the Ukrainian invasion, the soon-to-be Northern Front in Israel against Lebanon. All of this would have happened. The only difference would have been it would have had full, unwavered support from Trump instead of like, like we're going to act like we care, but we're going to like behind the scenes support it anyways, the way that Biden has been doing. So, yeah.
Dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we let
Bro's gonna
billions
say
of dollars
Afghanistan
behind. We
caused
lost
the
13
Ukrainian
beautiful soldiers,
invasion.
and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind.
Dude.
When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference.
That's almost as insane as India. Oh, shit. That's almost as insane as India claiming that they stopped the Ukrainian invasion to save Indians that were there.
Says he never would have invaded.
That's what Modi said.
Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything.
You know what's hilarious is that this is insane, dude. Hold on. I lost my train of thought.
Have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas.
He basically just admitted
Because
that he knew Putin was going to invade Ukraine.
Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas.
He's going to claim that
They had no
Iran
money
gave
for
Hamas
anything.
money to
No money for
attack
terror.
Israel
That's why
despite
we have no
Iran not
terror
having
at
access
all
to the money
during
yet.
my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden.
That makes no
I've heard so
sense.
much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that
President Biden.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All that money that he's talking about, by the way, is money that South Korea was withholding from Iran. It was Iran's money. And then finally South Korea decided to give Iran the money. Well, the money hadn't reached Iran yet by the time October 7th happened. And yet they keep claiming that Iran backed Hamas. But Iran didn't have that money yet. And they keep saying Iran used that money to fund Hamas. Hamas planned that attack for months. What money went into that attack? If you read the fucking details of that attack, what money, dude? They paraglided in and killed people. What money was required for that?
The fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where let's take
The weapons Hamas uses, by the way, are
Iran
Israeli
attacked American
weapons.
Cause brain damage.
They're Israeli
to a number of
weapons.
his troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want.
I know that
And
he
listen to what he
did
said when he went in. He was
quid
gonna
pro
take Kyiv
quo
in
in
5 days, remember?
Ukraine.
As part of
Bring
the
that
Soviet
up.
Union. That's what he wanted.
Bring that up. Bring up why he was impeached the first time. Come on, man. Come on. Bring it up. Bring up why Trump was impeached the first time. He has direct involvement in Ukraine.
Wanted to reestablish Kyiv, and he in fact didn't do it
Kyiv.
at all. He wasn't able to get it done, and they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine?
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything.
That's such a fire
I'm only
line. I
saying
hate it.
the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear.
Oh, God.
He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire.
Dude,
not just
he'll call
all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then
He'll call Putin a war criminal, but he won't call Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. How insane is that?
Stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
I really
Thank you. Moving on to the
do.
Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked
God,
Israel,
here we go.
killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created
my
a
prediction.
humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden
Trump's going to go,
put forward a
that would have never
proposal
happened under my
to resolve
administration.
this conflict. But so far, Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out.
That's not even true. Oh my. Ugh! I hate it when they say this shit. That's not even true. It's not. Let me explain to the people who are uninitiated. The reason Hamas took hostages is because Israel has thousands of Palestinian hostages sitting in prison with no charges and no trial date. That is the reason why they took hostages on October 7th. They took like a fraction of the Palestinian hostages that are being held in Israel. Because in the eyes of the Israelis, an Israeli life is worth way more than a Palestinian life. And so Hamas knows that they will trade multiple Palestinian hostages for one Israeli hostage. Well, apparently they miscalculated, because Israel will just willingly kill as many hostages as they need to wipe out all of the Palestinians in Gaza. And I hate this idea that they keep saying Hamas wants to continue the war. Hamas wants to continue the war. Hamas is literally the one who wrote the fucking ceasefire plan. Israel is the one who keeps declining it. They're the only ones who want to continue the war. Benny Gantz literally left the war cabinet because they have no plan in place to end the war in Gaza. They dissolved the war cabinet over that. The parliament is literally dissolving. They're probably going to call for another election at the end of the year to replace Benjamin Netanyahu. He is deeply unpopular in that country because there's people who want him to go even further than he's willing to, and there's people that want him to back off more than he's willing to. It's just Israel. It's only them that keep declining these offers. And they keep spinning lies like, oh, Egypt is secretly changing the deal behind closed doors. No, they're not. It's the same fucking ceasefire deal. And Blinken keeps lying his ass off about it. Now Biden, I guess, has been fed the lines properly on how to deflect and say that it's Hamas's fault, that all the plans keep falling through. It's not. Israel either keeps declining or altering the deal, and then Hamas declines it because they keep altering the deal by taking a ceasefire out. Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. That's like their one hang up. If Biden took the ceasefire word out and just said that Hamas has to give back hostages and you can keep bombing Gaza, Israel would accept it in a heartbeat, and Hamas wouldn't, because there's no ceasefire in it. Ugh.
We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime...
Oh, and they keep saying, oh, the Palestinian Authority loves these deals. It's like nobody in Gaza likes the Palestinian Authority. The fact that the most popular candidate that could defeat Hamas is not part of the Palestinian Authority. He's actually in an Israeli prison right now. No, the Palestinian Authority is deeply unpopular in Gaza because it's a U.S.-backed governing body.
Happened in Israel. We're trying to say the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're two different things.
And I love that he keeps shaking his head no, but this is one of the reasons I hate Biden, and it's because this is true. We are one of the number one supporters of, we are the number one supporter of Israel on the whole planet. You know, the only thing is that with him, he keeps like pretending there's a red line in Rafah. With him, with Trump, he would just straight up tell Netanyahu over the phone, dude, drop a nuclear bomb, why don't you? Why aren't you going far enough? I mean, that's the whole reason why Netanyahu keeps saying he doesn't like Biden, and why he keeps like actively pushing bullshit lies and narratives against the Biden administration, like saying, oh, they're not giving us money for weapons, when we clearly are. And it's because he wants Trump in office, because Trump will just give him full, unfettered access to drop as many bombs as he wants on Gaza.
Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us.
He keeps stopping really
together
odd spots.
Have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
That right there is the psycho shit that I was talking about, where Trump would just straight up let them drop a nuke on Gaza. That's that psycho shit I'm talking about. You know, in case people are curious, that's exactly what I'm referring to when I say Trump would be far worse on the genocide in Gaza than Biden would be.
There's so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia, at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected.
No, we're not.
Comes in, and we're
no, we
weren't.
weren't.
We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United
Europeans
States'
think we're embarrassing.
under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to
those
those
is he referring to the federal case of Jack Smith and the documents and all that?
Who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, But she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually.
I love what a load of
they
shit
asked me to
that
go make a
is.
speech. I could see what was happening.
Bro just loves spreading misinformation on the timeline.
Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits
They ought to have some National Guard or whatever. I think so. This is my analysis. I think he's surprised at how old and decrepit Biden seems this time around, but he's still like unhinged and crazy. And then Biden is like old and decrepit, right? But he's horrified at some of the like crazy ass shit coming out of Trump's mouth. Like, because Trump is a lot more unhinged now than he used to be. Trump back then was willing to like boss up a little bit, you know, throw some jabs here and there, but ultimately he was the president, so he had to put on some kind of face of like a bit of humility. Now he's like, man, I'm not the fucking president. We're gonna storm the, like, literally he's like, and the Jews are doing this, and we're gonna kiss Putin on the mouth, and we're gonna fuck Zelensky in the ass, and I'm gonna give Israel a bunch of gold. Like, it's just like unhinged mouth shit. And then Biden's over here like, where am I? Oh, I just shit my pants. Like, that's literally what we're dealing with right now. In the last debate, it was like, I'll fight you behind the gym, Jack. And then Trump is like, fuck you, Jack. Fuck you, motherfucker. Like, that's literally what the last debate was like. This one's way more off the rails.
She turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility. I'm
going to go pee.
And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do
Did I miss
something,
anything?
to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people.
What?
When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to
I'm sorry? Hold on, I'll let him finish.
Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of the...
I think what's hilarious is that, so the January 6ers are going to prison, right? understandably so, when you storm a government building, especially the capital of the United States, typically you should go to prison. But I distinctly remember during the George Floyd protests and riots, unmarked federal agent vans rolling up and grabbing people off the street and throwing them in jail. I distinctly remember that shit. But the big difference is that all those people doing those riots and protests, a lot of them were on public streets. Obviously, some broke into buildings and lit them on fire and stole stuff. That obviously happened. A lot of those people, though, went to jail or had their identity sealed under like a mask. So you can't put them in jail because you don't know who they are. And you can't... What was that? And you can't just put people walking in the street in jail. You can't just do that. So I don't understand this point. Like, if there were people participating in the protest, you can't just arrest people for being on a public street in a protest. That's not how that works. But when you storm the Capitol and you're in the federal Capitol building, you're actively participating in the Capitol riot. You're in the building. That's a big difference. If you're just out on like the outer part before you even get to the steps, I don't think you're going to get arrested. That's why a lot of those people that are in the photos but are never pictured in the Capitol building, a lot of them are fine. So I just don't get this.
They took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys?
Why is he shaking his head? Hold the phone.
First time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing.
Yes, he did. He said it in the fucking last debate. I don't remember if it was the first debate or the second debate in 2020, but he literally told them to stand up and stand by. That's what he said. Everyone remembers that. I can literally pull up the footage.
Denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be a success. But
not
when he talks about a
exactly what he
convicted
was
felon, his son
implying.
is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done
Like
horrible
what?
things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo.
He did! said that! He said, give me info on Hunter Biden or you're not getting this money. What is he talking about? How has no one in his campaign told him not to bring this shit up? What? Also, what charge is there for Biden to even be charged with? Other than aiding and abetting war crimes in Gaza, which will never happen. It should, but it won't. Dude, what is he on?
That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with his son. This man is a criminal. This man.
But that's what Trump did.
I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said...
That's so bold to just come on live TV and lie out your dick hole. That's crazy. That's crazy to go, Biden committed a quid pro quo in Ukraine by leveraging money over Ukraine. What? That's what Trump did. He literally went, you're not getting this money unless you give me info on Hunter Biden and the Biden family. What? That's crazy.
Ed, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex.
You have the morals of an alley cat.
Of an alley cat?
I didn't have sex with a porn star.
So
number
old.
one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat.
What?
The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam. And it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas? were fine people. And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it.
What?
And just the
Dude,
other day-
even he's like, what the fuck? What? Dude. Oh my, I'm gonna lose my mind. Also, fuck Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. I fucking hate these moderators, dude. Fuck them. The fact that they're not stopping him and going, sir, or cutting to footage. You know they're going to bring this stuff up. Be like, sir, actually, you did say this stuff. Because we want to have some, vision of like, oh, there's civility and, oh, we have to make it fair. We can't. There is footage of him saying this stuff. There's footage of this protest, of this Nazi rally that happened like 7 years ago. There's footage of it. Oh, but, CNN are a bunch of spineless fucking pussies who refuse for the last, however long it's been, 8 years? Who refuse for the last 8 years to push back on anything Trump says. Anything with substance, at least. Like, they'll say something he said was wrong, but they won't show it.
It came out where it was fully debunked.
Spineless
It's a
pussies.
Nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be
Nazis
president
coming out of the
And
woods.
the idea that he's talking about.
That's a funny
all this
little
being
implication.
fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
From Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms, and you'd certainly face again in a second.
All right, I want to skip ahead a little bit because this debate is long as fuck, and I kind of just want to move on.
I took 2 tests, cognitive tests.
Oh, here we
don't
go.
wanna screw around
The
with this.
juice.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test, and you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And
Dude, I love this whole fucking dumb shit about I passed my cognitive test with flying colors. Like, even he finds it ridiculous. And then he's like, this man can't even play golf. And then he brings up the White House doctor, who was essentially like an El Chapo figure in the White House. Dude literally turned the White House into a drug den, a benzo-fueled drug den.
One of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight
that was really bad.
that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me.
It's not.
Because I was his.
It's not true. One, let me cover that part before I get to that. He indicted me. I did everything right, and they indicted me. They were already. They've been talking about for years, charging him with shit once he left office, regardless of his reelection campaign. And he literally he announced his reelection campaign like the moment he stepped out of the White House. And he even, like, legally speaking, I believe he was still campaigning during his presidency so he could receive donations for his campaign. So, you know, he's been campaigning for re-election the entire Biden presidency. There's nothing to do with the fact that Biden is president. That has nothing to do with it. He's been running for re-election the whole time. But, you know, also, they were going to indict him regardless. I mean, the dude's committed, like, a heroic dose of crimes that even the richest person would have to get charged with at some point. So literally the only thing protecting him right now is the fact that he was the former president. Normal citizens would have been clapped a long time ago. Normal citizens would have been extrajudicially killed by a cop at this point in the process. So this is literally top 1% privilege right here.
Opponent. I wish he was a great president.
They indicted me.
I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman.
I think what's really interesting
World War III
is that
You want a World War
a lot of
III.
people forget that right before the pandemic, we actually got really close to World War III because Trump killed the top general in Iran, Soleimani, And all of us were like, holy shit. I want you to remember this because, you know, when you live in America, you don't think about this because you think, oh, America's like this paragon of freedom and we get to do whatever we want and we're like the world police. The only reason Iran hasn't started a nuclear war is because they just have chosen not to. They know that if they respond to an American attack in a meaningful way, it is the end of like life on this planet pretty much. Because every time we attack them in any way, like if Israel attacks them, Israel got it light. The response that Iran responded with was like a warning shot. That's what I'm saying, is that when Israel attacks Iran or America attacks Iran, the only reason we haven't been obliterated into a crater is because Iran has chosen not to do it. And so in 2020, when he killed their top general right before the pandemic, everyone was worried that World War III was going to break out because both sides had nukes. And then the pandemic kind of made everybody forget about that. But there was a joke for a long time of like, you know, people saying like every month there was a new crisis. And so like Marches was the pandemic. People were making edits of like the Death Star showing up in April over their neighborhood and stuff. So people really do forget how close to World War III we got multiple times under the Trump administration.
Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5.
Dude, get him off the stage.
Attack on all and required response. The idea.
Get him off the stage.
I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up.
Does that shit work? Does that like rallying cry type shit work when they go, Americans step up and they get the job done? Does that ever work? I feel like it doesn't.
Follow-up. The question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well,
shot at
but he
Bush,
knew not to play games.
An arguably more popular Republican president than Trump.
But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those.
Answer the election question, man. I don't give a fuck about Ukraine now.
All because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these.
And it never will be if he loses, but it will be if he wins.
Everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very...
Dude, this reminds me of like siblings when they argue, when the older sibling says something and then the younger sibling flips it back on them and then tries to make that the reality when it never was before. Biden saying he only ran because Trump seemingly endorsed the neo-Nazis in the Charlottesville rally. I don't believe that for a second. I think the Democrats saw Biden as a safe option because he was the vice president. He's got a lot of pull with moderates, or did at least. And, that was also the whole reason why he was chosen as the VP pick for Obama in the first place, is that he would capture the white moderate that maybe necessarily wouldn't be willing to vote for a black guy for president. But then Trump turns that around and goes, I wasn't going to run until I saw what a bad job Biden was doing. And that's not true either, because Trump has been campaigning to run again for years. We knew he was going to do that. No primary was going to stop him from doing that. Ron DeSantis primarying Trump the way that he did failed cataclysmically. We pretty much knew it wasn't going to be that close in the beginning of it anyways, when it was rumored that he might do it. So it's just both sides being like, I wasn't going to run until I saw what a bad job you were doing. I wasn't going to run until I saw what a bad job you were doing. And it's like, neither of that is true. You guys know why you each ran. Biden because the DNC needed a safe candidate to put up against an atrocious Trump administration. Nothing revolutionary. Trump because he's an egomaniac with a fascist agenda that the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society and the fucking Republican Party want to push. That's their reasonings for running. Trump is an effective conservative, bordering on, he's a neo-fascist, effective conservative president who has a lot of controversy preventing him from getting a sure 100% victory against Biden. Biden is a white guy who's not very left-leaning, very liberal and moderate. So there you go.
To be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right
Damn,
back
dude.
with more from the CNN president.
Shit. What the fuck? Dude, Biden kind of popped off on him on that one. Jesus.
Candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined
Oh
by
my
a
God.
coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000
Stick the
for
landing.
every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior.
Dude, stick the landing!
And everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you.
He's gonna get a lot of Palestinians killed saying shit like that. That's like, dude, that's like saying, I don't even have an equivalent. I don't even have an equivalency there. That's literally just saying that Palestinians all in no specific place are rioting everywhere. It's like, dude, now you're gonna have way more people just brutally beating and killing Palestinians in the US.
Throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible.
I don't even know what to say to this one.
Our soldiers,
he just sounds like he's fucking crazy.
Instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation.
History of the VA.
It's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump.
What a narcissist.
President Biden, stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about...
Oh Lord, dude, that was horrible. I mean, that was a rough watch. You know, that was a really tough watch, I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know what to say about that one. I mean, I saw some funny tweets. I'll show these. I saw some funny tweets. Just people like making fun of it. What are your views on the economy? And then like, we're gonna find and kill the Grinch. Mark my words. I just, you know, I don't know what to say, man. That was rough. So here's the thing is, you know, Biden has his typical liberal dumb shit rhetoric, and then Trump has his normal delusions that he runs with that some of his base believes and other members of his base don't. And it's like, I don't even know what to say. I think it's not Jover. I would say if we're going to say it's Jover now, then it's been Jover for a while. I'm going to say that it's not Jover, but it's definitely not looking good. Like, something about it. Biden looks really bad in that debate because he looks old and his rhetoric is a little shaky and whatnot. Trump looks not great either because he looks like a delusional psycho that's going on an unhinged dementia-fueled rant. But I don't know. From what I saw, his poll numbers, Biden's approval rating went down a little bit a few days ago, and I'm waiting on the polls to come out for today. I want to see how the polls are adding up after the debate, because this could make or break Biden's campaign. Biden has been kind of on the upturn since the Trump conviction. I think the Trump conviction really set into people's minds of just how serious the situation is. And I think it made people pay more attention to Trump again and reminded people of just how bad 2020 was. But I think this debate will probably reset it back to pre-conviction numbers, which is not good for Biden. I mean, this is how I feel after watching that. This is literally my reaction after watching that debate. But yeah, I'm a little nervous now. I wasn't nervous before. Yeah, here's how I also feel after watching that debate. This is me watching it the whole time. I don't know how to feel now about it. But I'm a little bit more nervous for Biden's chances. So, anyways, that's the episode. I'll see y'all on Friday, probably. And yeah, hope y'all had a good Pride Month. This is the last day of Pride Month when this comes out, so yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye-bye.